Retro Hangover, supported via Patreon by listeners like you. We'd especially like to thank patrons Lyle McCarnes, Ashton Ruby, Randall Quiggle, Tony G, Stud Still Smash the Milkman, Katie Quick, Paul Ramallo, Raging Demon, JC, Megan Caruso, Mast Keaton, Andrew LaGuarri, Ozzy Garcia, The Retro Vixen, Adam from The Good, the Bad, the Backlog, Thunderdome Gaming Society, Disky Mara, Jenny E, Rick Firestone, Keith Gasper, Dave Jackson, Eric Guess, Kayla Jackson, and Nomad from the Retro Wildlands podcast. Your continued engagement and generous donations are deeply appreciated.
Open your ears and crack some beers. You are listening to the most recent episode of Retro Hangover.
Hello, retro and classic gamers. Welcome to the podcast where we help hairy Horcruxes have hurried Hufflepuffs handle hemorrhaging hangnails. This is Retro Hangover. I am your co-host, Chris Copeland, with special guest patron Randall Quiggle, and, as always, your host, Shane Slytherin Dick Koski!
Hey, little mama, let me just slither into them DMs.
God damn, I'm finally glad that you came down from the moon on that one.
I was snaping some MILFs.
Oh my God.
Snipe? What?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know.
That.
Yep.
And
Is
we'll
that
go
dude
with that
from
one.
Die Hard?
Yeah,
Alan Rickman, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm so fucked up right now. But welcome to another episode of Retro Hangover.
Probably because we played this game. I mean,
Yep.
what? It's fine.
I'm not trying to be so negative off the bat.
I am not. This is an experience. Are you waiting for your letter from a fucking owl? Well, guess what? Your ship's come in, buddy.
Well, they didn't even talk about that. I'm sorry, what?
No, they sure
Jesus.
didn't. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. We're not even at that part yet. Chris, what? Hi, hello.
Hi, everybody.
We're starting the show.
And we're joined. Hi, Shane.
Thank you.
And we are joined by our longtime patron saint, Randall. How are you doing, Randall? What I don't even know why I'm talking right now because I can't find my words, but it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks.
Welcome to the show.
Good to be here for, I think, I don't know, my third episode.
I think it's the third episode.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Maybe I would have preferred under better circumstances, but I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, the front mission episode wasn't a total disaster. So when you wanted to come back, we said, okay.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. But welcome back. We're happy to have you back. And we're always happy to have you as a patron. You're an incredible member of our community. And it's always a pleasure to sit down and talk with you, man.
Sweet. Well, it's a pleasure to talk with you guys. I hope that we don't lose our minds by the end of this one.
I mean, the mind, if our mind hasn't been lost already, I'm not trying to be negative. We have had that criticism. I think it's a fair one to open up very negative about the game because we're trying to give a fair review here, at least in theory.
Are we?
I don't know.
I do have positive thoughts about this game.
To be fair, I actually do too.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are some good things about this game.
Yeah.
But before we get into that,
yes,
we'd like to do something as we are wont to do, and that is talk about, I just forced that one, talk about the games that we have been playing lately. And as we are accustomed to do, as I switch that up, we start with our guest as they discuss what games they have been playing lately. So Randall, what game have you been playing lately that you would like to tell our viewers about? Listeners about.
Viewers, listeners.
Who the fuck is watching right now?
Coming at you live on YouTube.
Ring that bell.
God is always watching. Okay?
There you go. No, so what I've been
That's why he's
playing
disappointed. Sorry. Go on.
Just damn. So what I've been playing recently is, I guess, mostly just like some shorter, more narrative focused games. I say shorter, but then I played Citizen Sleeper like 2 weeks ago, and that was like a 20-hour game. I'll just say I've been playing World of Warcraft. I kind of fell off it already. Citizen Sleeper, Journey. Yes, the one from the PlayStation 3. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Journey, Road 96, and finished off Disco Elysium as well. Won't go into that, but those are the games that I've been playing. All of them are good. Road 96 kind of, it's a hit and miss, but not too bad.
That's awesome. How about you, Shane?
Well, let me tell you about this little indie game called Elden Ring.
Heard of it?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I've never heard of it,
as it turns out. Yeah, it's not bad. I'm thinking it's gonna blow up soon. So keep your eye on it. I've got what Steam, tell me how much of my life I'm wasting. It looks like 168 hours so far, and that's in playthrough number 1. I've not even finished the game yet.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because I looked last time I played, which I think was 2 days ago at the time of this recording, and I'm right around like level 165 ish. So I've got about an hour per level into this game so far, and I'm currently in the consecrated snowfields trying to finish up Latenna's quest line with Michaelis Haligtree before I continue on. I just defeated the fire giant, but I didn't want to progress the main story before I had wrapped up some of these other like miscellaneous side quests. So doing that, having a good time. Rocking my power stance dual greatsword build with the one and only blasphemous blade, and then a fire enchanted iron greatsword, doing massive jump attack damage, and it is, as one might say, the tits.
Ooh.
So that's pretty cool. But besides that, actually very recently, and if you happen to be in our Discord, you might have caught this, but I did a little bonus surprise stream of some of the Steam Next Fest demos that are currently available. And I was able to get through, I think, like 2 or 3 games during the stream. I played Raidborn. I went through and played Deck Drafters or Dungeon Drafters. That's what it was. What was it? Yet Another Zombie Survivors, I think is what it was called. Let's just say my wish list continues to grow. There are some really great indie titles that are coming up very soon, including those. And I've got about 3 or 4 more so far that I already have installed that I'm just waiting to fire up, like Bleak Sword DX, which I'm happy that's finally making the jump from mobile to a full release on PCs. Monster Domain, which looks pretty cool. And Mika and the Witch's Mountain. Yeah, lots of really good indie stuff popping up. So that's been taking up my time outside of the big ol' Souls-like adventure. So what about you, Chris? What have you been doing?
Well, I've been trying to just grind a bunch of games to get ready for a month where I guess it's technically a break, because we're going to be, pre-recording a bunch of stuff. And we'll probably get into detail a little bit more on those with later episodes. So I've just been playing games for episodes, with the exception of the game for our RHRC, Retro Hangover Review Crew, which is Doki Doki Literature Club. And I actually really liked it. It's a short game. It's fourth wall breaking, I guess, technically. Well, I don't want to give any more than that because I guess we kind of lean into spoilers. But I did enjoy it. I'm finding I enjoyed it a lot more than the other people in our server. It's nice to have a game like this as opposed to whatever the game was last month. Randall, do you remember that game?
We're not going to talk about it.
Oh, okay, good. Because I don't want to either. Because and
I still haven't played Doki Doki yet either. I don't know why I'm dreading it, but I'm unfortunately dreading playing it. I'm just like, oh, okay, we'll eventually get there.
Well, see, now you know how I felt last month. But in any case, I did play Doki Doki Literature Club, and I did enjoy it. And if you want to know how I felt about it, just head over to our Discord, which you can do, and you can see my review on it and other people's reviews on it where they greatly disagree with me, because I'm not going to tell you that my perspective is the definitive one unless you're listening to this episode about a game that we're talking about, because I mean, that's kind of the point. I'm just prepping for other things later in the month, so I don't really want to talk about those because we will get to it. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Huh. Well, all right. Then keep your secrets, I guess.
I shall. My force is shining.
Indeed. Yes. For
Yes.
perhaps the second
Yes.
time.
My soul is blazing.
Wow, gasp.
My fantasies are final.
Never would have been able to guess that one.
I know.
So cryptic.
I like to keep things secret. But we are going to get to our game du jour, which is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Philosopher's whatever stone. I don't know. It seems to transition between the two. We're going to be talking about this game that was released for the PlayStation. And I don't know who's better to give us a brief history here between me and Shane, other than Shane. And I'll get into my personal experiences. So Shane, would you please give us a brief history of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone?
In the late 90s, something magical happened. Kids began reading books again, and at an incredible rate. Or at least, that's how it felt as a kid during that time, and this was in no small part due to a series of novels that got its start in 1997, and that is Harry Potter. The very first entry, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone if you're in the US, took the world by storm and became an international cultural phenomenon. And, as these phenomena are wont to do, soon came the licensing rights to movies and, more particular to this show, video games. In 1999, Warner Brothers approached series author J.K. Rowling about securing the rights to her books for film adaptations, and were able to do so for the cool price of $1 million for the first 4 entries. Filming for The Sorcerer's Stone begun in mid-2000. During that time, Electronic Arts had been looking to acquire the rights to make a video game based off the cinema version, while also incorporating aspects of the books themselves. EA would secure those rights in August of 2000 and would set out to create a game targeted at the 8 to 14-year-old demographic, similar to the age fans of the novels happened to be at the time. Argonaut Games, developer of Star Fox and Croc fame, would be tapped to create Hogwarts School of Magic in a 3-dimensional environment for the Sony Playstation, and would be allowed to reconstruct sets that were used in the film with assistance from Warner Brothers. EA would look to 2 different smaller developers for the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance versions, Kryptonite Games and Eurocom, respectively, both of which would be top-down traditional RPGs. The PlayStation game would receive a press release on November 13th of 2001, only 3 days before the game's release, which stated that the game would come out the very same day as the film that it was based on. Critics would receive the game rather lukewarmly, with reviewers praising its voice work but finding the overall experience dull and poorly optimized for the now aging hardware, as well as poor camera controls. Despite its noted flaws, the PlayStation release became a major hit, selling over 8 million copies, on its way to becoming the 8th best-selling title in the console's library. Since release, the Harry Potter brand continued to swell and grow into an enormous juggernaut of a franchise that almost any listener is at least passingly familiar with. And even if the series has ended its printed and cinematic run, video games continue to be released to this day on modern consoles, with high amounts of anticipation and eventual sales. While modern consoles may be able to recreate Hogwarts in almost unimaginable realism today, it's always great to go back and see where that digital representation got its start. And that is your brief history of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
All right, thank you, Shane. I guess, EA made a game on a movie. Or a book, because the movie wasn't out yet. It's in the game.
EA Sports. Sorry, wrong division.
Is Quidditch? Well, Quidditch is a sport, I guess.
That's true. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
It's in the game.
if this game was actually made by EA Sports back in the early 2000s, and it might, never mind, I'm not going to finish that sentence. Continue.
I mean,
Quidditch Jam
would have been a lot different. Yeah, I mean, I would. You know what? Make a fully developed Quidditch game. I'm probably there. It's like Blitzball, but like more active. I would think. Who knows?
Maybe.
I mean, you know what? Let's not even start talking about the fact that the rules for Quidditch are fucking stupid. But anyway,
they're horrendous. I have no idea what's going on there.
we're just gonna successfully piss off every single Harry Potter fan before this episode is over.
We're already pissed off about something. Who knows?
True.
Oh god. That's yep. There is a legacy behind that anger.
Fuck us. So speaking about legacies, let's get into our personal attachment to the Harry Potter franchise. I'll kick this one off because I don't know fuck all about Harry Potter.
He's a wizard.
Have never. I get that.
Okay.
Like, it's
He's
such
the
a
boy who
big part
lived,
of
Chris.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I've been told I have a scar on my face that's similar to the scar on his face, which is pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah.
But I've never read a book. I've never watched
Just
a
like
movie.
ever.
Never.
Never read a book in your life, huh?
Ever. Especially the Harry Potter ones. So I don't know anything about this franchise other than like the actors that were part of it because it was just omnipresent for so long. So yeah, I do know who Daniel Radcliffe is. I do know who Emma Watson is, but like I've never seen anything about it. So the Harry Potter franchise means absolutely nothing to me. I have never participated in buying like any Harry Potter stuffs, just not because I hate it. It's just because I don't care for it. It's not my jam. So I'll go over to you, Shane, because I think our little special wizard boy is our guest. And he'll be able to amplify the most here.
What the fuck?
So, I don't know.
Patron Randall, little special wizard boy Quiggle.
Yeah, that's me. I'm gonna cast a little spell on you there, Chris. Yeah, live
I'm
your
gonna turn into a chocolate frog or some
them
shit. I
pants
think.
right
I don't
off.
know.
Let me tell you what.
Hey, don't make promises you can't keep. How about you, Shane?
Let me just aloha mora myself into your fucking chamber of secrets. Anyway,
What does that mean?
Randall knows what it means.
You know exactly what it means.
So my personal experience. So with this game, none really. As listeners are probably aware of at this point, I did not own a PlayStation. I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express and rent one on occasion, but never actually owned one. So didn't play this back when it came out. As far as the Harry Potter franchise, just in general, I do have a little bit more involvement with it than Chris, which is 0. So it's a low bar, I guess.
Very.
My funny story about that, and I think I've told it on the show. I don't remember if I have or not, but I started reading the Harry Potter series. I have not read the whole thing. I should get that out there right now. But I started with the 3rd book for reasons unknown. Actually, it was because I think a friend of mine let me borrow the book because I was just like, oh yeah, it seems like everybody's reading these books. This sounds pretty good. And they're like, here, try it out. And first of all, in retrospect, I feel like that was just a dickbag move because they're just like, yeah, here's the 3rd book in a series. Go fuck yourself. Because like reading it at the time, I was just reading stuff that was being communicated as if it was a given. Like you're supposed to know that this happened. And I was like, oh, okay, well maybe they'll flesh this out later. Like maybe it's building up stuff and like I'll learn about this stuff afterwards. Fucking no. It's because there was 2 goddamn books beforehand that I wasn't aware of. So that was neat.
Surprise.
Anyway,
bitch.
yeah, I think third one was Prisoner of Azkaban, right?
Yes.
Pretty sure that's right. Yeah. So that's the first one I read. And then eventually I went back, and so far I think I've read the first 3, and that's as far as I've gotten in the books. Watched all the movies. I enjoyed them for what they are. I never became like a huge Potter fan or anything, but extra bullshit aside, if you're talking about just the books themselves, I do have to definitely give them credit for getting, honestly, like a whole generation of kids into reading again, because I think it had been a while since that had happened. And so that's definitely a net positive. And also, you know what? Harry Potter World down in Universal, pretty fucking cool. Even if you're not super into it, it is a neat thing. So
I've been there.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. So I don't know. What about you, Randall, our special little wizard boy? How did you find yourself at Hogwarts?
So my personal experience, I guess I won't say Harry Potter was a core part of my childhood growing up, but it was definitely a core part of my late sister's. So I talking about this game in particular first, we did end up getting it pretty much when it released, if not a little bit after, due to just where I, grew up out in the middle of the boonies. There wasn't really a game store. It was just this convenience store that would go buy a bunch of games wholesale from a Kmart that's an hour away. So this little convenience store would go buy games and then mark them up and then sell them there at that convenience store because there was nothing else around. They had a couple copies of this. So my sister, being a huge Harry Potter fan at the time, she was 10 years older than me. When this came out, I was, it's 2001. So I would have been like 7. So she was 17. And she had been reading these books since the release, like they started coming out and everything. She'd been following it. Loved the shit so much. So we got this game. I think she 100% of the game within like a week. And she was not a gamer. Like, she did play video games, and that's the reason we had a PS1 was because it was hers. But she like beat the shit out of this game. And I remember her having a shit ton of fun with it. There wasn't a lot of complaints that I remember. But for me, whenever I tried to play it, I couldn't get past like the first like 1/10 of the game. I was like, this game's too hard for 8-year-old me. I don't understand. I don't know how to play. But as for like the media and the books, I would say the Harry Potter books, actually, I think were the first one, like the first actual novels that I read through without like, like your mom reading it to you or whatever. So I think those were the first books, and then it moved on from there. And then the Harry Potter movies, watched them as they came out with my sister at the time. So like it was pretty deep in the Harry Potter fiction only because of her, but like it was definitely around.
Okay. So like it actually was a somewhat big part of your life, and like even looking back now, yeah, I mean, it's something that definitely you were inundated of and part of the culture to an extent.
Yeah, I would say that. I remember we tried to go to like a book signing once, but the closest one was in Philly, and my mom was like, "I don't think I can afford gas to go that far."
Wow, yeah.
to go sign books. And I think this is when the 6th book was coming out, and like towards the end of those book runs, like each book release was even bigger than the last, and so like when it came to book 6 and book 7, it was like a fucking monumental event.
Yeah.
For people who were fans of Harry Potter. I remember my sister trying to save as much money as possible to be able to go to this book signing, and it was just not going to happen.
I do remember, I think you bring up a good point, like the phenomenon that was Harry Potter at the time. Because, I mean, you look at this game, and we're going to get into talking about it, but the fact that it sold 8 million copies, and once you play it, you're like, how did this game sell 8 million copies? It's just that I think this game came out and the movie came out when the 3rd book was out. And you're right. Every single time a new book came out during this time, it was becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Just like this snowball effect of how all this momentum with the series. Like it was, like I said earlier, it was inescapable that the pop culture phenomenon that was Harry Potter. And like at this time, if this game was released around the time the 6th or 7th game was, that phenomenon, like the sales probably would have been even higher regardless. Like it was just that massive. I think like we all have like some feelings about what it was like during that time. And I mean, that was a great story, Randall, about like how that impacted you in some sense.
Yeah. And also I remember it's coming back to me now a little bit, and it's tangential, but I remember the Harry Potter verse was kind of like this huge escapism for that time.
Mm-hmm.
When the first movie and the second movie came out around, that 2001, bad times, like there was still like the rock that people held on to, that I think it was every year or every 2 years, a new Harry Potter movie was coming out. Like that was all people would talk about, at least in some of the nerd circles that I participated in back then. It was like Harry Potter was literally the cornerstone to some of like the nerd zeitgeist back then.
Well, I do guess it is time to focus the attention more onto this game in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Our next section is where we talk about the plot and the writing of the game. So, Shane, how about you kick this off and let us know what you think about the plot?
Does it have one? I mean, I'm trying. I'm like, okay. So the funny thing with this game, right, is that if you're going into it and you have knowledge of how the stories play out, whether it's from the movies or the books or both, it's like you're constructing the story for the game, because like you already know what's going on, and the game just also assumes this. So it straight up just never fucking tells you anything. It's just like, except for the beginning, you get like that nice little like, cost saving cutscene that they did, where they're just like, here's some static images and we're going to have a narrator tell you about the thing. And they're like, he's the boy who lived, and also Hagrid. And he was like, you're a wizard, Harry. And then he went to Hogwarts, and that's it. And then the rest of the game is just you getting railroaded from one place to the next, being like, Quidditch? Okay, do that. Go to class, learn potions, go outside now, save a fucking cat. All right, come back. And it never gives you any context for like the overall arching story, really. Like it hits on some of the major beats because, it still has the through line of the story of the Sorcerer's Stone, but it never really actually expands on any of that or gives any explicit detail about it, other than I think really just some of the character dialogue, right, that you end up getting from like Hermione and Ron for the most part. But outside of that, like it's not. That's what there you go. What is plot? It's not.
Wait, Hermione was in this game?
Yeah, sort of. I guess.
Or at least a blonde-haired version of her. I had a question actually. If you're more familiar with the books than maybe I am, was she blonde in the books?
If I remember, she was like it's described as like having sandy
blonde
hair. Like,
okay,
she's not. It's supposed to be more like of a light brown hair. Close enough to blonde for it to matter, I guess.
Oh,
not like Draco Malfoy level blonde though.
Okay, because I mean, again, all like 90% of my knowledge is from the movies, and so when the character model for her showed up, and we're kind of bleeding into graphics, but whatever. When her character model showed up, and it's like, and then this was Hermione Granger, and I'm like, who the fuck is that? Some blonde chick. That's not Hermione. Where's my dark brown wild ass hair? But yeah, she was definitely there.
Last minute casting choice, apparently.
I guess.
Randall, did it stay faithful to anything? Because like me not knowing anything about the movies or the books, I just kind of assumed it did. So, I mean, Shane was saying there's kind of an amalgamation. What's your take?
I guess it completely depends on what your definition of faithful is. Like, is this a I don't know what it's at being an adaptation of, because the characters that you talk to or at least interact with are definitely ripping from the movie versions of the characters. They are not related to how the book characters act. And this was a criticism of the movies as well. But since the movies did a pretty good job of it, nobody really cared. But the movie versions are not equal to the book versions either. So if this was trying to rip off the movie before the movie came out, that would be really confusing to people who bought it in anticipation for the movie. So none of the characters really act like they should unless you've seen the first movie. And then you're like, oh, okay, so these are just watered down versions of those.
Okay. Because my take on the plot, as someone who has neither watched the movies or read the books, is that it's following the first book. It's kind of like a freshman year introductory story for a bigger thing, which may be what they were going for. And I remember, asking my wife about one of the scenes in the game, which was early on. It was about rescuing your stupid pet owl or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And my wife was like, yeah, that happens in the books. Like, does it happen in the movie? She's like, well, I can't remember, but I know it happens in the books. Or she said, there's some other things. She's like, yeah, that doesn't happen in the movie, but that does happen in the books. So I'm like, oh, okay. So this is more the book adaptation than the movie adaptation. And whatever the case might be, it seems to have some loosely connected threads. But it seems like if this is an introductory game towards like a series of games, it would be more acceptable. But I don't think it necessarily turned out that way. But like the overall writing is very segmented, and like Shane said, it forces you into stuff and just forcefully transitions you in from one area to another without much explanation or really much plot development of any significance. And then at the end, it just kind of ties it all together, as I'm assuming the movie just kind of ended and came to a conclusion with.
I guess I would kind of agree. Like if you're talking about like where the plot points that it brings you from point A to point B, the problem, the hang up is exactly how both of you have already stated. There is no explanation between the two. It's as if between loading screens, there's supposed to be information fed to you. And then it's like, oh yeah, this is why you're here. And this is what this place is. And this is what you're supposed to do. And, these things that you're interacting with, though, they've always existed here and they were explained to you at some point. It's like, wait, no. The fuck is this plant? Why are you making me? Why do I have to clear it out? Who the fuck is this? Shit like that.
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. It seems like this game relies on you to have previous knowledge of the property before going into it, as opposed to just being a standalone title on its own. Like, I don't feel like you can appreciate the plot or writing of this game unless you already had an appreciation for the plot and writing of this game, which kind of goes hand in hand with the idea that this being a licensed game and that's going for those fans. But if you're just trying to appeal to like your general populace masses in terms of here's a video game, a lot of people are just going to be like, this doesn't make any sense and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, because like I said, I do think the game assumes you already have all of the necessary background knowledge. And so that's why they don't really give you much.
Right.
But I feel like, I mean, I'm not that person because I did have the background knowledge, but I still feel like even if you had no fucking clue about the story of the first book or / first movie of the Harry Potter series, it's not like it's like difficult to follow along with, right? It's basically just
that's
like,
what I'm trying to say.
You're a student wizard and you're going to go to a bunch of classes and then you're going to fly on a broom. That's it, right?
Yeah. No, it's not. I'm not saying it's difficult. It's just like, if you have previous knowledge of what's going on, it's going to be a lot easier. Or at least you're going to be like, oh, look, I'm doing this part of this thing.
Yeah.
Where opposed it's like, no, yeah, you're a first year student and you got to do the thing because the game's telling you to. It's like, okay, but there's no real representation or like something that just ticks off. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what that is. That's more what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, because like you definitely will appreciate it a lot more if you already have that context going into it, because like,
right.
Because like I said, they basically just like shunt characters at you being like, look at who this is. Isn't that neat that you're actually talking to this person? Like the Weasley brothers, like they're just fucking there. Like you just walk into a room and they're just standing there, and then you're just forced into a conversation with them where they're like, yo, get us some beans. And you're like, what?
Speaking about the Weasley brothers, like you're also given zero context between Harry's relationship with Hermione and Ron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most important part about the entire series, besides the relationship of Harry and Voldemort, is the relationship he has with his friends. And you are given no context at all. And you're like, why do I have to care about these characters? Who the fuck is this annoying redhead yelling at me to go do things and chase down some blonde boy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're basically given the same level of importance in this game to like fucking Neville.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Neville becomes more important later. I'm just saying in the context of this game and this first story, like he shows up and he's just like, I lost my frog. You helped me find it. And then eventually also you just kind of like fuck off and leave him to his own devices, which I also think is funny because you start to do that and you're like helping him and then you only get so far. And then Ron's just like, we're going to go do this. And Harry's like, all right. And then you both just leave Neville. But contextually, yeah, they're basically just given the same level of importance as like any other random like Gryffindor or something for the most part, other than they just show up a little more often than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And they look nothing like their movie counterparts. But we'll get to that.
We'll get to that in the graphics.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But before we get into that, I think we're going to be spending a lot of time on the gameplay. I guess it's your turn to kick off a section, Randall. And so the gameplay, how does it hold up?
Well, so since I had so many fond memories of this game from way back in the early 2000s, and holy shit, Batman, did I take those rose-tinted glasses and throw them against the wall. I went, fuck this. This game sucks ass. And
wow.
like, listen, now people may be listening and go, damn, he's coming in hard and fast at this. It's like, okay, let's put some context in this. This game came out in 2001. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other games that came out before this, okay, that were good. Mega Man Legends, Crash, Bandicoot, Spyro, stuff like that. Okay.
Highly subjective. Highly subjective.
Well, listen, okay, for me. Oh, I should say Spyro. That's like normally more well loved than the other two that I mentioned. But
okay.
So
okay.
Just talking about that. Okay. And that came out before this game.
Yes.
And then you play this and you go, oh my God. Harry alone. And I wrote this down specifically because this is exactly how it feels to play Harry. He's a coked out bunny rabbit on Heelys.
I like it.
That's what it feels like to play Harry in this game.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't like it, but I like the comparison.
I'm just saying. And this game could have done really well with that second analog stick.
I mean, it had it.
It didn't work.
It's analog compatible, but they didn't use it.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Yeah. Well, they didn't know how yet.
Yeah. But that's going to start my the long descent into madness with this.
Oh, no.
If you guys want to add anything on to that.
Well, I should start up by saying, what would you call this? Would you call this a puzzle platformer, an action platformer?
It's a puzzle platformer.
Yeah.
I would say.
I guess, yeah.
I think that's fair. It's not so much an action platformer, I don't think, even though sometimes it tries to be.
Mascot platformer, actually. Because,
hey, there you go.
Because there's the collectibles. Yeah. I mean, well, because there's the normal
it's
collectibles.
Better than Bubsy.
I guess that's fair. I didn't really think about that because you are doing like the normal collectibles, the normal, like platforming is not difficult in this game.
No, it's like Zelda.
Yeah. I would say it's more of a mascot platformer, except not for a system, but for a franchise.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the point about how he controls, I just, I want to ask this because as a non PlayStation owner from back then was, let's see, this when the I don't even remember my own damn brief history. When did we say this fucker came out? 2001?
2001. Same
All right.
year as Silent Hill 2.
Okay. Oh God. See,
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah,
That's a good comparison. But anyway, okay. Yeah. Fuck me. All right. So the DualShock 2 came out a year before this game,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. So dual analog definitely was a thing. This wasn't like we were just relying on the OG PlayStation controller that had no analog sticks, right?
Correct.
But this
Right.
game did not actually take advantage of said analog sticks at all, right?
Right.
No, it did.
What, for movement?
Yeah, for movement. Like, they had analog control.
It had 6 degrees of
Six
of
axis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it didn't have the 6-axis. That's PS3. But like, you could, like, it was dependent on your movement speed was dependent on how much you moved your analog control, much like Mario 64.
Okay. Well, so the reason I'm asking that is, and again, this is probably because of the way that I played it. So speaking of which, let me ask this: did either of you play this on OG hardware?
Yes.
Okay, you did.
I did this on illegal means.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of my issue, is because the way that I played it, I could have remapped it, but I could not be fucked to bother. But it was only using the D-pad for movement with no stick. So I played the entirety of this game with D-pad movement, and it's a fucking nightmare.
I could only imagine.
Yeah, that's awful.
This game is basically unplayable on D-pad.
Yep. Yeah.
It is.
I mean,
Yes.
it's not unplayable because I fucking did it, but I'm just telling you, maybe not the best choice.
Well, okay, so the difference between it being literally playable and mentally unplayable is, I think, that where I was going with that. You decided to not only put like a handicap on yourself, you decided to chop off your hands too.
Yep. It was damn near impossible to control Harry, especially on some of the sections where you had to be real precise, like running after that douchebag Peeves across the short, like the small little fucking.
Oh, that fucking part.
Yeah. I fell off. So many got. Well, you know what? It's not even falling off. It's like, it's because the game, there's no fucking jump button. So it's just like you get close to an edge and Harry's like, jump. And I'm like, no. And he's like, jump. And I'm like, you fucking son of a bitch. And then he'd do it anyway. And so like that section was literally just me like fucking serpentine weaving around and then hitting close enough to an edge for Jerry Potter to basically
Jerry Potter
to just be like, you know what? I'm going to leap to my death. And then the only saving grace of this is that at least the game allows you to change direction midair. Okay. There is that.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
enough
Yeah.
that I could at least course correct most of the time so that I didn't just jump directly to my death. Harry would attempt it and I would be like, not today, Satan. And then put him towards the fucking thing and he would grab on the ledge and pick himself back up. And somehow I still finished that section. But yeah, it sucked to play this with a D-pad. Don't do that. No one should do that.
It goes deeper than that, right? Like, I didn't have the same problem as you did in terms of jumping, but what I'll say is this is the camera is so fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Especially there's these sections I'm sure you both got to where like you're trying to race the clock in order to get to your next class.
Oh my God.
And it starts off fine enough. And like the first couple like things you have to do, I'm like, oh, this is a kid's game. Like I'm just doing simple tasks and there's no issue and it's fine. Like this is something that if I was like 8-9 years old and I just want to experience like being a wizard in Hogwarts, like, oh, this is really fucking cool. But then it gets to a point where like they have these floating books or these moving platforms and you have to be very precise in the way that you hit them or they'll drop immediately and you have to be really quick about it. And the thing is that the camera just loves to fuck with you, or you have to change direction in such a manner that like it has to be very immediate. And sometimes like if you get close to an edge, you might not even be heading in that direction. But if you get close to the edge, then Harry Potter will jump. Or like the camera angle will just shift on its own and force you to jump in a direction that you didn't intend to jump to.
Well, yeah,
because you just start randomly moving that way.
Well, but yes, that's the thing, because the camera has an auto centering feature, right? Well, I say feature with like air fucking quotes.
Feature.
Like
bug.
Yeah, because like you have control over it in most areas of the game. Not all, most.
Yeah.
I also just have a fucking grievance with that anyway, because the way to move the camera is with the shoulder buttons, but it's reversed. Did anybody else notice that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
it was pretty annoying.
Every time, especially in those sections where you have to be very quick and precise jumping along these like platforms. Every single time I'd hit the wrong side of the camera because it's reversed. And so that would waste time. And then, yeah, like if you turn Harry in a certain direction, if you wait a couple of seconds or so, the camera just auto adjusts itself, which totally fucks whatever it is you were trying to do. And yeah, this was really good. And the thing that you said about like how you got into it in the beginning, right, where you were just like, yeah, this is a game for babies. Did you want to be a wizard, little boy? Then this is how you do it.
Little relaxing game.
Yeah, you could just collect some beans, and honestly, that's what I thought it was. Like same as you. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna like this. There's a reason I pushed for us to do this fucking episode was because I was like, you know what? Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone on the PlayStation 1 seems like a pretty chill little like platformer. I bet it'd be fun because I fucking played it on stream like a couple of years back now, I think. And I only got, so far into it where the game was not an asshole yet. And I was just like, oh, yeah, no, this seems cool. And then once you get to a certain point, then it goes from that to just like actively hating you. And then it just gets worse the further you get in.
I would honestly say this game is decent, if not a little above average, up until the point you beat Draco. Like after his boss fight, the game just tanks.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say tanks. I would say like
it's just slow descent into madness. That's what it is.
I wouldn't even say that. I would say it varies wildly.
I don't know.
There's periods where it's tolerable when it's more of an action platformer and you're more relying on your flipendo spell in order to do shit, or you're like focusing on throwing things at trolls and making your way through stuff. Even like the stealth, as bad as it is, it's somewhat tolerable, right? Like it's not perfect, but it's tolerable.
I can agree.
But then when it wants you to platform and jump from platform to platform, or it wants you to cast the Incendio spell, which almost made me want to chuck my fucking PlayStation across the room. It's a fucking nightmare.
Okay, on that, I want to know what your experience, both of you, was with that Incendio spell specifically. Did you miss it constantly because there was like a fraction of a second lag, or was that just me and my fucking emulator?
Fraction? What do you mean fraction? It's a full on second, bro.
Okay.
You hit that, like it gives you an indicator and also tells you what button to press.
Yep.
If you try it, and like in modern games, you want to line that bitch up. You want to get it right on the dot.
Yeah.
If you do that, you miss it every time. Guaranteed. 100%.
Okay.
You will miss it.
Okay, good. It's not just me. I thought I was going fucking insane. Like I was sitting there on the couch and I'm like, listen, I did not play Guitar Hero through college to sit here and have this motherfucker tell me that I did not just hit that button when it hit that circle, because I know it did. And so I had to like start timing it. So it's like, like a second before it hits the indicator that's supposed to be when you're supposed to hit it. And I was like, this is a nightmare. I hate everything about this.
And even that's not consistent. And that's not even consistent. Because like it kind of derives from, when you're supposed to be going to these classes and you have to do this repetitive bullshit where you have to hit the button and where the wand is pointing.
Yeah.
And shit. Apparently you can hit the button before the wand gets there. I thought you had to time it. No, you can hit the button before it gets to that button where it's pointing to. So I think they took that same design concept and the Incendio or whatever it's fucking called, that spell. I think they kept that same concept. But then when I tried to anticipate it, it also punished me. So there was no consistency on that in that fire spell.
Incendio.
Incendio. It's not a Spanish word, Chris.
Fire. I'm calling it fuego on that fuego spell. Because it lights things on fire. Okay?
I mean, yes, it does.
It is
correct.
spicy. Well, I mean, it does if you fucking do it right.
No, what we don't see Harry doing is he pulls out
Incendio!
a spray can and a lighter, and that's what he's doing instead.
Dude, oh my God.
It's like he brought It's like you brought a gas tank into my house and like, please burn this game.
I have like, I'm pretty sure I have like post-traumatic stress from that now. Cause like you can ask my wife because she's sitting next to me on the couch while I'm doing this. And I'm just sitting there losing my fucking mind, just watching Harry continually go, Incendio. And I'm like, yeah, you want to Incendio, motherfucker? Why don't you actually do it, you little bitch? And I was just like, oh my God.
This brings up a great point. And it's kind of like the whole center part of my problem with the gameplay is that there are just too many systems.
Yeah.
There are too many things. Like Chris, you had mentioned before that it wanted to be somewhat of an action platformer whenever you started using what is it?
The Flipendo.
Flipendo.
Yeah.
Flipendo.
Okay. So
your
you're
knockback jinx or whatever.
You're starting to gat people, okay? Like you're gatting enemies, okay? But then it's like, okay, now you got to do a rhythm puzzle. You want to do a rhythm puzzle? Yeah. You like
if
rhythm?
you want to call it that.
Yeah,
that's being generous.
Want some quick time events.
And then it's like, okay.
Shenmue Harry.
Oh my God. Sorry, I lost my train of thought with that one.
We didn't go to
Have you seen any sailors?
Oh my God. In the Navy.
I'm sorry for bringing up Shenmue.
Right.
It's about the same quality. I'm sorry. Now people are going to hate me for that too.
I mean, if they haven't already canceled us for doing the episode in general,
we're not going there.
Let's not even touch that. But
Okay.
no, I mean, the thing about it doing too many things, I think you make a good point. You know what? In defense of the game, at least in theory, in an alternate universe where it did this correctly, I actually don't think it would have been that big of a deal. Like if these had been implemented well, I think it would have been fine because like at least they were like internally consistent, right? So like every time you learned a new spell in a class, it was always the same mini game. And then each spell had its own mechanic. And I think that's fine. It maybe is a little over ambitious, but like it's fine if all of those things were done correctly. And like almost none of them are. Like even the Flipendo spell, the most basic fucking thing. Like at least you get the shoulder button to target enemies. So that's nice, but it's not always.
Wait, you used that?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, I didn't.
It auto targets too on top of it. You know what? I'll go a little bit further than you. I'll say like when this game wants to be an action platformer, it's good.
Yeah.
Or just an action game. I think it's actually a good game. It's when it wants to do different things and change it up, it becomes a nuisance. And that's pretty much the underlying feeling I have for this entire game in terms of its gameplay is that you'll have periods where like you go into the forest or whatever and like it's pretty chill, but then it'll have you do something stupid. So it'll be about like 10-15 minutes of decent to all right gameplay interrupted by what the fuck just happened. And that's this game in a nutshell is you'll be having a good time and then all of a sudden it will punish you for thinking so.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Well, my point with the Flipendo thing was that like even it gets that wrong even because there are it does. There are at least two sections I can think of where it just sucked. The one that immediately pops to mind is the sequence with the troll in the bathroom in the dungeon because you are forced to manually point the spell and try to anticipate him throwing an infinite number of toilets somehow.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible.
And that sucked. So like, why the fuck do you have an auto targeting feature and then force the player to not use it?
Yeah. But that's like the one time the Flipendo thing doesn't work well.
Well,
I think for the other parts, it does.
I would actually disagree because there were times where it also was really difficult to target things that aren't targetable. Like when you're using the Flipendo to move the platform blocks, there are times in some of those sections where you're like trying to position, and this really just goes, it's not the spell itself. It's more going back to the controls, but like trying to aim Harry to actually shoot that spell to hit the block in the right way sometimes was a huge pain in the ass.
I think that's mostly because you decided to chop off your hands and play with the D-pad.
Well, you know what, Randall? Maybe it was, but I'm still blaming the game. So
no, that's fair. But speaking about Flipendo this much, it reminded me of something. Did you guys collect all the beans?
I did, actually.
All but the blue one.
Did you get all the unlocks?
All but the blue one.
No. And do you know why, Randall?
Because backtracking.
No, it wasn't even that.
Why?
I actually, the game actually is not that bad with the collectibles. Because like you look at the pause screen for the most part, you look at the pause screen and like, you're like, oh, fuck me. I got to get like 100 jelly beans. Like what? But it actually goes by pretty quickly because they're pretty plentiful. And the game gives you more beans of each color than you actually need to complete those. I found out.
Except for blue.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Fuck that one.
But for the most part, it's fine. But the reason that besides the fact that I didn't actually finish the game, which we'll get to in a second.
Gasp.
The reason I didn't 100% everything that I had gotten up to at that point was not because of that. It was because of the Gringotts mini game and that fucking nightmare that was. Because as it turns out, in order to get like the last or close to the last, I think 3 or 4 of the wizard cards, you need to do perfect runs on all of those Gringotts like rail sections.
That is
insane.
Well, I mean, it's not that bad at first. This is the biggest problem I have with that you're talking about the minecart shit, right?
Yeah.
My biggest problem with that is it just gives you these hints as how to control it, which is you press a button and it locks your position.
Right.
And you can move one way or another way. But like I didn't completely understand what it was talking about. So like for like my first 3 or 4 runs, I'm like, why am I getting my ass absolutely hammered? None of this makes any sense. And it took me a while to understand what the game wanted me to do. After that, it wasn't necessarily so bad, but the way they have it laid out and the way that it has momentum and what it expects you to do, there's no way you can perfect that without having it 100% memorized.
Oh, yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah, absolutely.
To do it otherwise.
Yeah. Even then, I think I had an existential crisis while I was playing that particular section. Like that almost broke me. Like I got to have you ever had that point with a game where you get so frustrated that you transcend anger and just go into like acceptance, where you're just like,
that was called the 5 stages of grief, my guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I was, where I was just royally fuming at this minecart section. And then I just got to a point where I failed so many times in a row where I was just like, yeah, this is fine. I'm fucking zen. I am the rail cart master. It's totally cool. Everything's gonna be fine. I'm gonna finish this. I mean, I've eventually did somehow, but you could probably confirm this with Brianna, but I'm pretty sure that that's actually more frightening than just straight out anger. Because you go from fuck all of this to just like, no, this is fine. Everything's fine. I don't, what's the problem? Where you're like 2 seconds away from just snapping and losing your complete shit.
And you have to do it 3 times, by the way. 3 times.
And it gets harder.
Yes.
Every
It gets
time.
more difficult. Yes, it does.
And then you get these fucking goblins in there that are just like, well, apparently you didn't
suck.
live up to expectations, Potter. You about to try it again. And I'm like, this is the worst bank ever. I don't want to be a wizard anymore. Someone take me back to Privet Drive. I will live under the stairs, because if this is what I have to do to get my money out of this place, I want no part of it.
True.
They're selling you NFTs.
So there it is. The reason I brought up the beans originally, and then I brought up the unlocks, is because the 2 ones that sit most prominently on my mind are completely useless by the time that you can actually get them.
Okay.
I'm talking about, I think it's going to be the yellow one. So it's the first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get the broom.
Like, because 2 of them are for Quidditch.
Okay. Yes. But the broom one, I have only ever gotten it after I've already done everything for Quidditch.
Well, no, because you have that last section, like at the end of the game, where you have to fly around.
Oh,
you need it for that.
Yes. I'm specifically talking about Quidditch, though.
Well,
like,
okay. No, I had it before the last Quidditch match.
Really?
Okay.
I had it like way earlier than that. Like
I didn't.
you can get all of the yellow beans from the first like areas.
That's the bomb damage one. I think you're talking about the control one, right?
No, I'm straight up talking about the new broom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the third
Nimbus
set.
2000. I thought that was like, wasn't that the first thing you get?
Yeah.
It's the third one. It's the third one. I thought the yellow one was it didn't allow you to like take damage from bombs.
Nope.
No.
Oh.
Now that one I'm pretty sure was green.
Yeah.
Oh.
The ones that I remember very vividly are the ones that I found completely useless. Nimbus 2000 because I had already beaten Quidditch by the time I got it. And so yes, it helped with the key portion. That was fine. And then the red bean one, which was the upgrade to your Flipendo. I literally felt no different.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I mean,
charges
like,
faster.
That's interesting because I guess you guys must have gone back to like finish getting the beans or something because like
the yellow one, yeah,
because I got those like straight away, and so like I already had the Nimbus when I was like going into the second Quidditch match, like with Ravenclaw.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I did too.
Oh, well, shit. And then whatever I did, I decided to do it on hard mode.
Not harder than what I chose, apparently.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about how flying your little broomstick feels?
Awful, terrible, the fucking worst. Like even someone who is into Harry Potter and is like, I wish to live out my fantasy of being a seeker for Gryffindor would probably be.
How do these people make Star Fox?
Completely disappointed by how that played out. It's so touchy. Oh my God.
This is made by the same people who made Star Fox. How did they fuck this up? How?
I mean,
my biggest criticism is the fact that a lot of it feels like you need to slow down and turn.
Yes.
But you also need to be able to, you need to be able to keep your altitude.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you slow down on your broom, Harry drops like a fucking rock.
Yep, sure does.
I never had that.
So whenever
problem.
you go to make a tight turn, and even a what's her bitch tells you, oh, for tighter turns, slow down. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And then you slow down, and then Harry goes, well, I'm just gonna nosedive.
Yep,
because we're playing Ace Combat now. And he just plummets to the ground, and you're like, well, I missed that ring. Oh, well, there goes my time. I got to do all this shit again.
Yeah, but the thing on top of that too is they're like, the game straight up tells you, right? Like you said, where it's just like, you can slow down to take sharper turns. And it's like, yeah, but functionally, no, the fuck you can't, because every single thing this game wants you to do, broom related, is you better be going at top motherfucking speed the entire time. Otherwise, you're going to lose. I don't know if this is what they wanted us to do, but like functionally, every single Quidditch thing I had to do was just me. Like, it was like someone trying to learn how to drive a manual transmission car, because it was just like stop, go, readjust direction, stop, go, ad infinitum, until I could somehow get around and get through like most of the rings. It was not a smooth experience because I tried to just say, okay, you know what? I'm going to cruise in USA this motherfucker, and I'm just going to hold down the gas the whole time, because apparently that's what this game probably wants me to try to do. And the controls for the broom are so sensitive that the littlest, it's like driving an overtuned sports car, like the littlest movement. And Harry's just like, you want me to careen off into the forest? I'm like, no, but you're gonna, so knock yourself out, I guess. And it's so, those could have been so easy. They could have been fun. Like, granted, it's still like Superman 64 bullshit of like, fly through these rings. So not exactly like inventive, but they could have at least been enjoyable. But again, it goes back to just the fundamentals of the mechanics of this game are just so poor that it just makes the whole experience just like abysmal.
That's not good.
No,
it's not good.
No, it's not.
Like peacocks,
dude.
Oh, okay. Hold up. All right. Was there any other comments about Quidditch?
No, fuck it.
Before shade
also
explodes.
the timing thing reared its head again on that, because like there's a lag with the stupid little mini game of actually catching the snitch, in that like,
yeah, but it's not as bad.
It's still there. Like when you press the button and the hand like is like a second later it closes.
So playing it on emulator, I pretty much had to press X when the snitch was in the middle of the bar.
Yeah, that sounds about
wow.
right. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it
Yep.
was bad.
Mhm.
Now, I didn't blame the game on that because I'm not playing it on original hardware. I was just like,
I mean, there's still
damn.
a lag. There's still a lag, but it's not that bad. It's far more acceptable on original hardware.
Yeah, I imagine there was a lag.
Yeah, there is.
I was just like, Jesus Christ. Harry's like, synapse firing, close.
Again, that was just me again yelling at a fucking, how old is he in this? Like 8?
He's 11.
11.
He's 11.
I was yelling at an 11-year-old boy, just being like, just cup the balls. Just cup the ball.
You can't be telling. You can't be saying that.
Felt like Adam Sandler, just like, get in the hole. Don't you like your home ball? Go home.
Yes, officer. This one.
Yes, Chris Hansen right here, please.
Oh my God.
Okay, so who wants to talk about Diagon Alley? Anybody?
I think you do.
I do. Do I?
Fuck it.
I guess I do. Hey, kids, did you like Harry Potter? Have you ever gone
No.
to Universal and walked around and been like, wow, Diagon Alley is so magical. Look at all the cool stuff. I can buy butterbeer and overpriced wands, and occasionally that dragon up there will breathe fire. Man, this is just like being in the Harry Potter land. Well, don't play this game because you'll fucking hate Diagon Alley for the rest of your life. Because somehow this game and only this game managed to take something so cool as like a wizard shopping district with a goblin bank and a motherfucking dragon and turn it into a nightmare, an absolute shit show where everything that is in this section actively hates you and wants you to have a bad time.
Only one part.
God damn.
Only one part.
It's the fucking worst. The first thing,
Well,
you
one
know
part.
what? Even Hagrid knew that this was a bad time. Because he shows up with you and he's like, all right, Harry, you go get your gold. Well, first of all, he's taking advantage of a rich kid, too. And it's straight up because he's just like, you want to go over to that bank and get your gold. And I'm going to go to the 3 broomsticks and get fucking shit-faced. He has no
Yeah, it's true.
part of this because he doesn't.
No.
He knows better. He's like, you go do that. I'm a go drink. He had the right idea.
Child labor.
Child labor
well,
laws.
You know what?
Child
Doesn't
labor
exist.
laws.
That doesn't
yeah.
exist there. Yeah.
No.
But like you roll up into there and then we've already talked about the minecart stuff and how that's just an absolute travesty. Right. So when you
That's already a
finally,
disaster.
you finally get through that and it was an experience. Let me tell you.
Oh, plus getting those documents with the slippery floor too. That was great.
Oh,
It's the Heelys,
why
bro.
is it an ice rink? Why is it an ice rink?
Bro, that's why I said Heelys. Like,
It makes no sense. As soon as I got into Gringotts, Harry was just like, we be slip sliding, son. And I'm like, why? And he's like, I don't fucking know. It's probably
Okay.
that one goblin over there. I blame him because he's on the ground polishing this thing forever. Why? Why ice physics?
okay, it plays like shit, but I found it funny. Like, it's a hilarious.
I was not having fun the third time I had to fucking do it, Randall.
Well, I mean, I wasn't having fun either, but it was fucking funny.
Why?
Because you have to you think about it and you go, why is this motherfucker polishing it so much that you're sliding around like it's nudes
That's a
on ice?
straight up OSHA violation. Like what? Who has
They don't
any
have
oversight?
OSHA in the wizarding world.
Clearly.
That's in fucking England. They can't even get dental. So
Wow.
Shots fired. But yeah, so
I can't talk shit, but
God,
it's true.
yeah, even you're right. Even doing that was just the absolute worst. Why does this game insist on everything being timed? Why is everything timed? Like 80% of the activities in this game are under a strict timer. It sucks. Timers are not fun. Stop doing that. Just stop it. It's the worst mechanic.
Yeah.
So like, okay, whatever. Slip slide, Jimmy Jam, you fucking get around, you get all your canutes, which by the way, the pronunciation of that is inconsistent in the game as well. Some people say canuts, some people just say straight up nuts. In my opinion, not sure which one's funnier. I'm going to go with canuts.
Gotta grab those nuts.
Yeah, get me some of them canuts.
In your mouth.
But like, you get all your money, right? And you leave the bank. And I was thinking the worst is over. I've survived. I am a survivor. I am a strong, independent wizard who don't need no goblin. And I'm like, all right, I've made it. Now I'm just going to go into these shops and just buy the stuff I need and probably drag Hagrid's big drunk ass out of there and somehow make it home in one piece. All right, fine. Great. So I step outside. I hit that conveniently located save spot right there. I'm like, all right, let's go roll up into one of these here shops. Excuse me, merchant. I am in need of some stuff. Could you perhaps get me some toad warts? Because that's a thing. And she's like, yeah, of course. You have money and I am a purveyor of goods. That is how things work in the world, is that you exchange money for goods and services. One might think, but that is not what happens in this game. Oh no, because she's just like, yeah, I don't know, man. I lost my fucking toad. He's somewhere in one of these boxes. If you want your shit, go find him. And also you still need to pay me. Oh, and also you need to do it within a certain time limit because reasons. And also, if you happen to break too many of my boxes, game over, bitch, and I'm going to yell at you about it. I think I almost had an aneurysm, and that's not even getting to the wand shop. Oh my God.
The frogs are fine. I didn't have any problems with the frogs.
I didn't have a problem with the frogs either.
It was just stupid.
The owl's fine. No, it is stupid, but like it was fine. I didn't have any issues with that. I had no problem with the owl. I think what we all want to talk about here is the motherfucking peacock.
Oh, do we actually want to talk about it?
I mean, we don't. It's just
scream about it.
I think somebody else should describe it because, like, I feel like
go for it, Chris.
I've done my part.
So you're. It's terribly explained. So in order, you have to get an item, 3 items. And the way you get an item, 3 peacock feathers, specifically. That's why I say peacocks, is you have to sneak up. They tell you to sneak up on the peacock. And if you sneak up on the peacock, you get the feather. So you're thinking, oh, I'm going to go super stealth here and be really quiet and sneak up on this motherfucker. And you try doing that and it runs away from you.
Even with an invisibility cloak, I might add.
Yeah, even with the invisibility cloak, you think that's going to work. It runs away from you. So essentially what you have to do, instead of just sneaking up on the motherfuckers, you have to run on top of it and stay on top of it for as long as possible 3 times.
Yeah.
And it's always running away from you.
Mm-hmm.
It is rage inducing.
And it's, yeah, you're right. Cause it's not even just like, oh, if you can get close enough to him, you can just pluck one of them feathers right out of that ass. No. You have to fill up the feather meter,
the feather
which is
bar,
a thing that happens.
Yeah. Is to show how shocked it is.
Fucking.
Oh, by the way, the entire time this is happening, your frame rate dips to like 10.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, good luck having any consistency controlling Harry Potter or moving your camera around in order to figure out where this peacock is or adjusting your direction, because this thing comes to a fucking slideshow in order to try to trace this peacock. So on top of trying to sit on top of this motherfucker, you are competing with essentially this claymation in order to accomplish this.
Yeah, man. It's a stop motion slideshow.
Horrible.
And by the way,
horrible.
Hey, did we mention, I don't know if we brought this up yet, but did you know that this section is also fucking timed? Did we talk about that? Yeah. Because everything is. Oh, dude.
Before we finish with the peacock, I just want to say that it almost, like, it hints to have a way to have made it better. When you break one of a random box inside of this peacock pen, okay, it gives you an invisibility cloak, and you're like, wow, shit, I could actually sneak up on this bitch. Nope.
Mm-mm.
No.
Completely useless.
And it only gives you 1.
Yep.
And you need to collect 3.
Yep.
3 feathers. And it's not like the cloak guarantees you 1. It's not like the cloak allows you to stand on the peacock for a certain amount of time.
Nope.
No. Literally, you put the cloak on. You are invisible. At least that's what you think you are. You run up to the peacock and then it runs away from you as if you're completely visible. And you're like, I'm just going to Avada Kedavra my ass into hell because like
just flipendo me off a fucking cliff because I am done.
If you use your wand once you hit the peacock, it's game over.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
This sure is a very well implemented mini game that was fun for kids of all ages.
All ages.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, after you get done with Diagon Alley and you go to the kind of what I would consider the final boss rush, it's actually pretty good. Like the final stretch of this game is decently executed.
I wouldn't know, Chris, because that is where I threw in the towel. I was just like, this peacock thing, it has broken me. Like after somehow surviving that minecart bullshit and then rolling up into Ollivanders, and again, another person just being like, well, in addition to paying me money, you need to go solve this yourself. So fuck off, small child. I was like, nope, I'm done. I don't even care what the rest of this game is like. I'm just done.
It's pretty much you go into the final boss rush after Diagon Alley. You go to the home stretch. And I thought it was fine.
Great.
I had no issues with any of the bosses. It's fine.
I guess just to quickly talk about it, Fluffy was whatever.
It wasn't great. It was just like a poor rhythm game, but it was what it was.
Yeah, and then the fucking vines were okay. Actually, you know what? I say the vines were decent because it was an action platformer again, and then you're like, oh wow,
it's
nice.
Fine.
And then we get to another rage-inducing case for me.
What's that?
The chess game.
That wasn't that bad. It was annoying, but I didn't think it was that bad.
It actively, my problem with it actively wants you to just run headlong into BS. Like if you read the books or watch the movie and you play this game, you're like, oh, I should be strategic with this fucking bullshit. It's like, no, you want to actively try and go KYS against these chess pieces. Good luck, bud. Also, the Queen death sound. Why? In a kid's game?
I mean, it sounds like it could be painful.
Uh-huh. Yeah, sure.
It is a possible sound for pain.
Uh-huh. The final boss was honestly forgettable for me.
But it's decent. It wasn't bad.
The whole mirror thing not working like it does in canon is weird to me.
But I don't understand canon. I don't give a shit about canon.
Well,
nothing is sacred for me.
You know what? You're right. For you, it was probably a lot better. But for me, it's like,
that's fine.
This mirror is now like some sort of fucking power player, and you're hitting Voldemort upside the head with some big pillars. Man's a tank.
Yeah, I didn't care because I don't have any loyalty or fealty to this franchise whatsoever.
Well, I mean,
zero.
I don't have any loyalty to Harry Potter.
I'm just saying, like I have no attachment. It's like zero.
No, I got you.
Like whatever, it's fine.
No, I got you. Final bit, you beat the game. For me, I don't know if it did this for everybody else, but for me, it's like, oh yes, Harry, you won. Gryffindor, yeah. And then the game ends, and then it seemingly for some reason goes to the cutscene where it fills up the cups with sand, and you're like, Gryffindor already won. Why are you doing this? And then the game just cuts off.
Yeah, it does that. Yeah, same.
Okay.
I feel like that's a good place for me to just bring up my final thoughts on the gameplay, at least here, which is that functions as a great illustration of how I feel the approach to most of this was, which was an attempt was made and then not followed through on. I've been probably raging about this game more than a lot that we've talked about in recent memory, because it really is that rage inducing. But the thing of it is, and I feel like you guys would agree with me, is that there is a core here that could have been good. Like,
yes,
even the shitty mini games, which is most of them, could have been good. They could have been entertaining, but I feel like there was just like little to no actual play testing or QA or anything done on this for someone to tell the devs like, hey guys, you guys are making a game, right? I'm like, yeah, like, cool. Games are supposed to be fun. This is not fun. Make it fun.
It's fine for a licensed game, which isn't saying much. I mean, at that time, anyway, a licensed game at that time.
But I guess what really just sticks in my craw about it is like I said, the first, let's say, couple hours of the game or so are actually fine. Like, they're enjoyable. Yeah. They're just like really low impact. Like, I'm having a good time exploring around Hogwarts, going to classes, collecting some jelly beans. And if the whole game was that same level of like chill, we would have been having a very different discussion. Because I honestly thought we were going to have a very different discussion coming into this episode. I was fully expecting, before I played through, let's say 80% of this game, that I was just like, you know what? We're going to have a fun little time. We're going to have a little jaunt into the world of wizarding with Harry Potter. And we're going to have a nice little chat about it. And we're all going to come out of that episode feeling okay, that we got a little piece of gaming comfort food. And that's not what this is. Like, it goes from a piece of candy to I don't know, like a toothpick being shoved into your gums.
I stick with what I said earlier. It's an example of a game that does about 20 to 30 minutes of decent gameplay, and then just tells you go fuck yourself, and then gives you another 20 to 30 minutes of decent gameplay, and then tells you go fuck yourself. Yeah. And that's essentially the story of this game. Is it constantly gives you promise. It constantly gets to a point where you feel like it might be something more than the sum of everything it's giving you, and then it just completely disappoints you, only to give you hope a little bit later. And that's when you try to do too much, and instead of narrowly focusing on what you actually want to do. And I think it feels like a bunch of different segments just all kind of mashed together into one experience that they're trying to make cohesive, but just isn't. And it's a shame, because there are a lot of good parts. And there are times I was genuinely having fun throughout the entirety of the game. It's just, there's just big highlights that just like make it miserable for the times you have to deal with them, and it really slows down gameplay, and it really ruins the overall experience.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
I guess, I mean, we kind of spoiled for the holds up today, but I guess we still have a little bit more to talk
Was
about.
Was there really a question at this point?
I guess not, but we do have an episode we need to go through.
We have a show to do.
We do. I guess now is a good time to move on to the presentation, starting with the graphics.
Fuck yeah.
Shane, how did you think this game looked?
PS1 Hagrid is a mood.
Yeah.
I will not elaborate further.
Fair. Balanced. That's a balanced review if I've ever heard one.
Right. I'll cover this one next. For a PS1 game, for the most part, I think it looks really good. I do.
What?
Yeah, I do. I think Harry's character model looks good.
What?
Listen,
What?
like, yes,
What?
It looks fine.
Okay, no, hold on, let him finish.
Look, compared to other PS1 games, like, who's that weird dude that you follow around in the library that like can, like, you're supposed to do like this
Felch.
stealth mode, but whatever his name is.
Sorry.
Yeah, Filch.
Yeah, okay, Felch. His face model actually looks fine. Hagrid looks weird, but like, for the most part, I get that they
There's
don't
a reason
look,
PS1 Hagrid is a meme.
I get it. He looks bad, but like the rest of the character models and stuff, they don't look bad. The environments don't look terrible either. Like,
I do like the environments. I'll give you that.
Graphically, this game for a PS1 game looks fine. It looks pretty good. It's bright and colorful and everything. The only like major gripe, and when I say major gripe, it's like a minimal one, is that there's a lot of texture warping.
Yes.
Which is what you is very noticeable if you've played like Tomb Raider for the PS1. If you look at the walls, how they just kind of bend and warp, there is a ton of that in this game. Like, it's you can't avoid it. And that's probably the worst graphical commentary I have about that, other than like the character models not really looking like they do in the movie. But then if you complain that they don't look like the movie and it relies on the books, but you're complaining that they're borrowing the characters from the movie, I don't know. Maybe the characters just look like they look better than the ones in Metal Gear Solid, for fuck's sake. They look fine. They look fine. They're not meant to be perfect. It's not a fucking PS2 game. It's okay. It's a late PS1 game. I think their graphics are just fine.
Yeah.
They're not the best.
No. Like, memeing aside, like, it's I did like the environments. You are 100% spot on with the texture warping. It is bad, like to the point where when I fired this up, like right from the get-go, when I stepped into Hogwarts, like from minute one, Brianna was sitting next to me and she was like, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, what? She's like,
Yeah.
Why is everything like jittering? Like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, that sure is PS1 graphics. That's what it's doing. And it was even worse because like by default, my emulator had a texture scaling thing on. And so like it was trying to make it look crisper, and that jitter was like 10 times worse.
I'll say this. If you were a Harry Potter fan in 2001, not today, but in 2001, I think you would have been impressed, and I think you would have been happy with the representation it gave you of Hogwarts.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, some of the I think my biggest gripe is the environments are colorful. I think they're fine. They actually do a pretty good job of representing the different, well, I would say locales, but there's really only a couple, but they do a good job of bringing that to life with the hardware that they had. And so I think you're right. I think honestly, my legit biggest gripe really is just the character models, and it's not even specific to this game necessarily. It's just like endemic of this era of games. It's like, I call it the GoldenEye face, because that's basically what this is, where like all the character models just have the weirdest like face mapping textures.
Yes, I agree with that. But I don't know what else they could have done at that time.
Right.
With this hardware. I think that's
I just do really appreciate that like Hagrid and fucking Dumbledore specifically they were just like, you know what? I'm pretty sure these characters only need like 8 fucking like vertices. They don't need that many polygons. It's fine. Like Hagrid is basically just a fucking cube almost. And then Dumbledore's head and beard are like one solid object.
Yeah,
I love it.
Pinhead.
Randall, we heard you kind of groaning there. Like, what'd you think?
Oh, I mean, honestly, just the graphics for me, once you leave the castle, the moment you start walking through the grounds in the forest, I started getting a headache. Like it was just, it was bad. It was just real bad.
Is that the warping and shit?
Yeah. It like, for me, it fucked me up. Like I looked at the way that these trees were supposed to be sitting next to each other, and it's like, no, did not for me. And then all the character models, I understand it's PlayStation 1. I get it. It's fine. At the end of the day, it's fine, I guess. I would give it a 4 or a 5 out of 10 for a PS1 game. Average at best.
Oh, that's really?
For me, yeah.
What's better?
I guess it wouldn't necessarily be fair, but I definitely enjoy. We've had this conversation before, but I really like the way that Crash looks, and that came out before it. And Crash was like extremely colorful, and like the character models were much better. Granted, Crash is not a human.
I think that's the big thing.
Yeah,
right.
It's because
the stylized thing. Yeah.
And so I could give the game a pass because it's trying to make humans, I guess. But I can't get rid of the feelings that are there, Chris. I just can't. They're there.
Okay. I get you.
I forget the name of the memory spell, but I was going to make a joke about it.
Like somebody cast it on you.
Speaking about feelings that are there, or maybe not so much there in my case, maybe definitely not so much there in my case. What do we think about the music and the sound?
What
music?
Where?
Yeah.
The intro?
Yeah, there's
like incidental little like music things, like when you unlock a door, it's just like doodly doo fucking Harry Potter thing, but that's like kind of it.
There's some ambient music every once in a while,
occasionally. Yeah.
All I'm gonna say is it is a fucking travesty that you get someone like John Williams to make music and you don't use it in your game. Like all the time.
Yeah.
One of the most prolific composers in, I would say, like modern history. And you don't abuse the shit out of having license to use his music. That is a mistake.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure why it wasn't included, because you're right. It couldn't have been a licensing thing. I mean, we're talking about, EA and working in conjunction with Warner Brothers, like I can't imagine that was a blocker.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, but the thing is, like, when there is music, it's not bad. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Like when there is sound to talk about, like I think the voice acting is fine. I think the sound is fine. It's just that for the most part, this game is just empty and they don't do enough with what they could do in terms of an audio presentation. It's just sorely lacking, and it makes the game, I don't know, that makes those transitions when you're moving between classes or like just moving around Hogwarts in general feel more pointless, because there's like music is very good in a video game at setting an identity as well with the environments. So without it, it feels like the game itself lacks an identity, when it felt like it was so easy in order to obtain that. Yeah. And they just didn't do it.
I would say to actually give this game some points is like I found the voice acting for all characters except Quirrell. I found the voice acting to be pretty okay, if not good. Like Dumbledore's voice actor was great. Draco's voice actor can actually, you know what? I won't say that. Let's just say that voice could get deleted and I wouldn't feel bad.
Yeah, that one was not great.
He does have the best line in the game, though.
Oh, what might that be?
A wizard crackers?
Yeah, let me teach you a real lesson about wizard crackers. And he's talking about fireworks, but it's just the way that he says it. And he just called you a muggle-born or something.
It does sound like he's insulting you based on, in modern times, about your race. He's calling you a wizard cracker.
No, because he would those words would have been reversed if that were the case. It would be like,
cracker
let me teach
wizard.
you a lesson about cracker wizards.
I know.
Let me teach you a lesson about wizards, cracker.
No, I know. It's just the way that he says it. It's fucking hilarious.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and I know it's kind of nitpicky, but I really wanted, if I'm gonna get a Draco Malfoy alike, he really needs to put that that venom on the delivery of the word Potter, and I feel like this voice actor just did not do that. It's like he needs to be ejecting it from his mouth, like he's spitting out like a bad apple or something. He just needs to be like, "Oh, so it's you, Potter." We did not have that. I was very disappointed.
I forget the name of the actor who played Draco, but he's kind of lightning in a bottle for playing that character. He was born to play that character. So I could take away points for the delivery, but I just think the entire thing was bad from him.
Yeah, I think from what I recall, I think most of the rest of the voice acting I was fine with. I actually really liked Hagrid's voice actor. I think he did a good job of kind of aping that same style. Dumbledore was okay. I actually wasn't super jazzed by his delivery on that one, but it is what it is. The rest of them I think were fine. They were pretty close to their movie counterparts, so I was actually pretty happy with the majority of it.
McGonagall actually sounded like the same actress too.
Yeah, that one. Well, her and Hagrid actually were the two I was just like, did they actually get the actual actor and actress to come back for this? And I'm pretty sure the answer is no, but kudos to the voice actors anyway.
Did not look it up, so.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But overall, I think just put a stamp on the sound. It's not bad. It's just I'm disappointed.
Lacking.
I think, and I think that that's surrounding mostly the musical score or lack thereof. Yeah. Because I think for the most part the sound design is good.
Pretty good. It's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the sounds of the spells and the ambient effects and things like that. I thought those were all pretty well done. So you're right. I think that's the greatest way to put it. Is it feels like oddly empty or like hollow in a lot of places.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so I do want to cover one miscellaneous fact because I didn't want to look up any other miscellaneous facts, because I'll go into why here. There are 6 different versions of this game. You heard about 3 in our brief history, but there is a Windows version. There's this version for the PS1. There is the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Advance, the game that's for the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. That's all the same version. And the game for the Mac. And apparently all of those versions are different because they all have different developers. I don't know how that happened. I don't know why that happened, but every single version of the game of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone if you live in Europe, is all different. And that is wild to me. But there you go.
And not only are they different, but they're like very different styles of games too.
Yeah, as we said, the Game Boy versions are Game Boy Advance. Those are like JRPGs.
Yeah.
So go figure. I don't know what EA was thinking. I still don't, for what it's worth, but definitely not back then.
EA
it's
games
nuts.
Challenge everything.
Is that what? That's what it is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the opening back then. Challenge everything. Yeah, you certainly challenged my damn patience.
Yeah, challenge something. I think that's a good transition in whether or not this game holds up today. Randall will get the final word. I will kick this off, and then I will kick it over to Shane. Does this game hold up today? In my opinion, you know what? I think I looked at the reviews for this game. I saw where the scores were on Metacritic and what reviewers were giving it in 2001. They were spot on. I think when they gave this game a 5 or 6 out of 10 in 2001, that was the correct score, considering where games were. Today, it's lower than that, just because we know how to make a 3D game. And back then they were still like, yeah, Mario did it, but they still hadn't figured out the camera yet. And that's very evident here, or what to do with the second analog stick, or a lot of the controls to make this just like kind of a below average game in 2001. Today, it's a frustrating game that shows glimpses of brilliance, but overall just falls short of being anything worth anything, really. So does this game hold up today? No, and it's questionable if it ever did at any point in time. It's not a good game. And if you really want to experience like Hogwarts, like that would have been the time at that time to do it. But there are far better options today that are available to you if that's what you're really about. So yeah, don't even bother with this. It's not worth your time, not even as a curio. It's bad, and you will become frustrated and very upset that you even looked at this game and gave it a chance. How about you, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anything else I can really add to that. Actually, you kind of hit it spot on. Like I've said a couple of times over the course of this episode, I had a very different idea of what this game was based on the first like few hours. If for whatever reason you wanted to try to play this game today, I would tell you basically play until maybe you get into the Quidditch part, which is not that far, but that's really what you need. That gives you the best parts of the game without having to suffer at all. And that's about it. And you know what? Like we said, there's like half a dozen different versions of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And you know what? There are better ones than this. Would I say this game holds up today? No, not at all. There are even other comparable 3D platformer style games like this that just did this better. It'll never happen, probably because of licensing, because that's the bane of most of these kinds of games. Part of the reason that it took forever to get a legit Tony Hawk remake out there. But were they ever to remake this, I think it could actually be like a cute little, 3D puzzle platformer. If they did a lot of quality and life improvements, like Chris mentioned, with the camera control and some more, precise character control and whatnot, and cleaning up some of the mini games and making them not stupidly infuriating. But obviously that's never going to happen. So as it sits now and has sat since it came out over 20 years ago, no, this game is not worth your time. If you're really hankering for a Sorcerer's Stone fix, like I said, go look at like the GBA version or something, because I'm pretty sure that's actually a more enjoyable experience than this, even though it also does actually still include some of those QTE things, which are just everybody's favorite. Man, the early to mid aughts were just a time for those QTEs. I never understood why that was such a trend, but I'm sure glad that it died. But anyway, no, don't play this game. Don't suffer like I suffered.
All right, Randall, close it out. What's the final word?
Fuck no. Doesn't hold up. I don't know. You guys pretty much hit the nail on the head with it. There's really nothing much else to add. Even if you wanted to play this for meme value, it might be good to play the first like half, and then the moment that you start to get frustrated, turn that sucker off. You're done. Not worth the time to try to complete it. I wouldn't even say try to collect all the beans. Just get your meme-filled enjoyment out of it, turn it off, call it done. Still not even really worth that much time.
At least it's short because you can get it done within like 5-6 hours.
Yeah,
So that's good.
It's pain.
It is. It's not worth it. It's not worth that time, but you can if you're curious, like me. Wasted my time.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I guess that's it.
I guess
that wraps up another episode.
We made it.
So yeah, Randall, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your continued patronage and being active in the community, man. You rock. And thanks for everything, dude.
It's no problem. I'm glad that I got to join you guys on another one. Hopefully, if this episode does decently well, I get to come back and do another one. If it absolutely tanks, you know what? I know why. It wasn't because of me. It's because of this game.
That must be it. Yep.
Again, it was a pleasure being on this and talking about this, even though the game was,
yeah.
Was it still good for you, even though this may have completely ruined like a core like childhood memory for you?
Oh no, like 100%. It does not affect those good memories because like it. Again, the good memories did not come from me playing this game. It came from her playing the game. And I was like, she enjoyed the shit out of it. So I was like, okay, go for it.
Fair. Well, I suppose we should do our thing because that's what we do. So if you've made it this far, then, you know, thanks for sticking around. And if this happens to be your first time in these here parts, then welcome. We are glad that you have decided to join us. It is not always that we have, you know, an hour and a half plus of just rage about a children's book.
Rage. Yes.
But, you know, it happens sometimes, and that's okay. And we hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you liked us having to suffer through this so you don't have to. And if you'd like to engage with the show beyond just letting it sort of wash over that brain space of yours, then you can do that, and we make it very simple for you. All you have to do is head on over to Linktree/Retro Hangover. That is linktr.ee/Retro Hangover, and choose the destination that suits you best. Whether that happens to be the Patreon, where you too can support the show, also get access to the King of Games 1992 tournament that is currently going on, where we gathered together a veritable pantheon of podcasters to objectively decide the best game of the year 1992, and it will be forever cemented as such, and there shall be no argument or dissension, so say we all. So if you want to check that out, you can do so for as little as $1. And if you want to wait, eventually that will come out to the main audio feed, so everybody will be getting that content goodness. But if you want to get in on it right now, that's how you can do it. You can also head over to our merch store if you'd like to pick yourself up some RHP related clothing, get a sweet t-shirt or something of that fashion. You can check out our socials or perhaps our YouTube channel where we post stuff from the old Twitch streams, which my trusty compatriot Chris here is going to tell you a little bit more about.
Yeah, so if you head over to twitch.tv/Retro Hangover, you can watch the streams on Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, that's US, and we'll be streaming a game of some kind, but we won't be streaming this game because we're done with it forever. It's never happening again, but there'll be another game.
Dead to me.
Yes, so twitch.tv/Retro Hangover, come by, hang out with us. We have a great community that shows up there, great conversations, great people, including Randall here, who shows up occasionally and lurks because he's dealing with idiots in the Northeast. So sorry about that, Randall. When he is active, he does a fantastic job as part of our community, as does everyone else who hangs out on our Twitch chat. And you should come join them and get to know them at twitch.tv/Retro Hangover at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Sundays.
There you go. Well, I guess with all of that being yelled into the microphone, I need to go get some water. Until next time.
Play with your limp-dicked, wizard-sticked joysticks.
Shane here with a quick message. You know, the one rule Chris and I have always gone by regarding advertisements is this. It has to be something we use and can personally vouch for. If you know me, you know I love coffee. And Bones Coffee Company has been my go-to for home brewing for quite some time now. Their small batch beans come in an impressive variety of flavors like Mint Invaders from Chocolate Space, or Electric Unicorn, which I swear tastes exactly like Fruity Pebbles. And the best part? No added sugar or calories involved, just natural flavors infused right into the beans themselves. Build your own sample pack of 5 4-ounce bags to find out which flavors speak to you, or jump in head first with full 12-ounce bags. They've even got K-Cups. Step up your homebrew game with Bones Coffee by visiting bit.ly/RHPBones. That's bit.ly/RHPBONES.